Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Manny Diaz Show. Joe Zagacki alongside University of Miami head coach Manny Diaz, my broadcast partner Don Bailey Jr. It is the bowl season, and the University of Miami will be in a bowl game going back up to Orlando. It's now called the Cheez-it Bowl, but Coach, the Hurricanes in a bowl game for the 44th time in history in the 8th straight year, so congratulations on going bowling once again, and a very formidable opponent, Oklahoma State out of the Big 12 at 7-3.
Yeah, well, that is what you would expect to see. I mean, obviously, we had a really good season, finishing 8-2. So when you finish in the top 20 of the country, you're probably going to play another top 20 team somewhere. So to be able to return to Orlando, where we had a great night, 4 years ago, a great destination always for a bowl game. We will be able to be around in front of some fans in Central Florida. So maybe some fans in the central part of the state that haven't had the opportunity to come watch us play can come see the Canes and then our players to be able to play another game in their home state in front of their family. I think that's been a big deal with all the things they've gone through this year.
Manny, the response for playing this football game, bowls are always thought of as a reward, but we've never had to go through a COVID season. How did the players take it when you discussed it and put it out there for them? Do you want to play in this game, and how do we approach it?
Well, we need to finish, right? We need to finish our season. We are different than a lot of other teams, because a lot of our players are from this area, so we've not had the yearning. Some guys, have not had the ability to go home, but we have a lot of guys that are still around friends and family. But we no one wanted the year to end the way it ended, the way we played 2 weeks ago against North Carolina. So I think to have everybody come together again and be able to put one more together with this current team was exciting to everybody.
Coach, before we dive more into the matchup with Oklahoma State, maybe we'll talk about the season in general. A bowl win would be the cherry on top of the cake, but 8-2, you did improve in a lot of areas in all three phases.
We improved as a program, and I think that's the most important thing. And like I said, we're not where we want to be, but we're certainly not where we were. And I think it's important to take that into context, and I think the players deserve a lot of credit for that. This was a difficult year to play football. They met a lot of challenges that have we put in front of them because they have been stumbling blocks to us in the past, and the ability to, even just winning that. I still think the Pitt game and winning that game the week after the big loss to Clemson and being able to sort of immediately refocus on the task at hand and run off, 5 straight wins after that, I think was a big part of what defined this team.
You look at the Miami defense, and you can say that's a Hurricane defense. It's not the old 80s defense, but you can see that's your style, your imprint on it. And now you see that offensively. It's only been 1 year, less than a year, to be quite honest with you. So what impact will that have that you now have a Miami defense, your defense, and a Miami offense going forward as well?
Well, we just laid the foundation right on both sides, so now we can recruit to it. I think that's part of the success we had in recruiting. We can be aggressive in attack on offense. We can be aggressive in attack on defense. And now you get more reps in the system, more, implement different guys into the system, continue to improve the talent on both sides of the ball. I think the results will get better and better.
Man, isn't there proof in just looking at the receiving core on how it took X number of weeks to finally implement this offense? There was no spring. And as you mentioned, Miami did not recruit to this style of offense you have in this last class, but there was a big adjustment period, and it looked like Miami finally caught on offensively, and they figured it out, and everything came together.
Well, you just get better at what you do, right? And to your point, it's difficult having multiple position coaches, which a lot of our guys have, multiple schemes, which our guys have had, and what's curious about our team, though, offensively, we had a lot of the same people back, obviously not Derek, just in a different system. Defensively, we had the same system, but with a lot of new faces back. So really, up until the last game, I thought you saw both sides of the ball really improving through the second half of the season. Again, we've got to make the North Carolina game an outlier and continue that improvement that we really felt like in that 5-game winning streak was starting to define our football team.
The bowl season today in college football is becoming a little bit different. You do have a couple guys that we're not going to play, but it also becomes a little bit of a chance for other guys now to get into a game and get in front of you and the coaches and say, hey, look, this is what we can do going forward, and some guys are going to have that opportunity.
That's exactly right, and I think you're seeing that every year. It was a great opportunity for Sam Brooks, who played great in Shreveport last year, and we wish we had a healthy version of Sam this year where he could have really bounced on from that performance. Our defensive ends, obviously with all the success that Jalen and Quincy have had this year, but Jafari Harvey and Cam Williams have been waiting in the wings, and they've gotten some reps and they've made some plays in games, but now they really have a chance to go out there and show what they can do, and not just for their own confidence, but in the teammates' confidence. I think everybody's excited to watch those guys go out there and give it their all.
Manny, when you bring up those two names, you bring up Harvey and Williams. They'll be stepping in for Roche and Jalen Phillips. There's really another two guys that got to step up as well, because you're going to go in not with just two defensive ends. You're going to need at least 4 or 5 in the rotation.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Chance Williams does. I think Chance has gotten some more reps even in practice over the last few weeks, and I think the things that we saw him do at Oak Leaf High School up in Jacksonville, and his kind of natural instinct and ability to rush the passer is going to come through. So it always comes back to a defensive end play. You have to earn the right to rush the passer. You got to do a great job with all the different run fits. Playing all the gap schemes and all the read plays that those guys see week in and week out. But I'm excited to see our guys go play.
And this also, as we mentioned at the top, is a really good program you're going up against. Oklahoma State. They've won a lot of games during Mike Gundy's career, 16 years. He's been the head coach there, 7-3 this year. They've been to multiple New Year's Six bowl games. They've got a system. So this is going to be a really good challenge, and I think a really fun game.
Oklahoma State was ranked, I don't know, 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere, earlier in the year. They were 5-0 and lost kind of a heartbreaker in overtime to Texas. And, from that point on, they've had another couple of close losses. They beat Iowa State. Iowa State was a top 10 team for the majority of the year. So they can do it. I think you hit the nail on the head. They've had continuity. They have had an identity on offense since back in the time that I was in the Big 12 in terms of what they're going to do. And they want to run the football, and you think Big 12 and spread and, pass style of offense. That is not the case at all. They want to run the football, and they want to run the football right downhill at you, and then play action and hit shots off of that. So, just because a quarterback is in the shotgun doesn't mean that that they want to be a pass-first offense. And I think a lot of that goes into the identity baked into the Oklahoma State program, which no one knows better than Mike Gundy.
Coach, you're going to have a couple of weeks off, obviously, before the game. You got the holidays in there. So if you look at this like off weeks or beginning of a season, special teams always need to be coming into focus in bowl week, because it's something that gets, the off time never seems to help it. First of all, I want to commend you on how greatly the special teams improved with both your kicking game and your punting game. But how do you work on that in this off time?
Well, it's funny, there almost has been no off time. But you're right. I mean, Jonathan Packey's done a great job with our special teams this year. Our net punt has been phenomenal this year. We've seen how that correlates to winning with field position. But, again, we really it's been a long year. We really gave our players a week off. And now we're really not, we're just back on a game week now. We're basically, it's almost a long week, but you got to factor in Christmas and travel. So it's not much different than a normal game week for prep. So it's a unique situation. It's not a normal bowl prep. Normally you practice for a week at home, and then you go to the bowl site and you practice for a week there. We will not have that opportunity this year because of COVID. So it's basically, let's get back to work and let's have a great week of prep to get ready to go play.
I want to dive into recruiting, the class you signed a week ago in a moment. Touch on Oklahoma State's defense for a second. Jim Knowles is their defensive coordinator, who was at Duke, so he's in the ACC. Do you suspect he'll give you the same thing that we used to see at Duke, which was defend the red? We're going to blitz you when you get into the red zone, and we're going to try to keep the points down.
They're a little they're a little different than that. They're number one. They're one of the top defenses really in their conference, and almost in the country. They are very aggressive in what they do. They're a old and veteran group, very experienced here. That's why, again, this was supposed to be the big year at Oklahoma State, but they challenge everything. A lot of man coverage, and then they'll switch from a 4-down front to a 3-down front, which is actually similar to what Duke did this year. They've got a big-time defensive end. They can stand up and sort of move along their defensive front. They've got a special player linebacker, a special player on the back end. So this is a really talented defense that, again, lives week in and week out in that Big 12 conference. So they get tested by some of the the best offenses in some of the most high stressful environments that anyone sees anywhere in the country.
Coach, we'll jump into a little bit of the recruiting part of this. When you look back at your signees, I guess the biggest relief and the biggest compliment was there was no surprises.
That's a great thing. No sad surprises. You
Right.
know, there was a happy surprise, of course, with Jake Garcia Wednesday night, but that speaks a lot to our guys. It speaks a lot to the connection they have with each other as a class, and then even with our guys on our campus. And if you really think about it, the group that signed last year was really about the same way. They were super rock solid, and so to be able to put two classes back to back of guys that aren't just really talented players, but really also love Miami and are committed to being a part of building something special here in our program, speaks a lot for who they are.
We touched on this a little bit last week, but now I think the number is 17 or 18 of the 28 teams in the playoffs are the same. And really, the best way to try to get in there, and we were close a couple of years ago, is what you just said, right? Stack one class on top of another, to build up that momentum. And so you've got a couple back-to-back here.
It's not the best way to get there. It's the only way to get there. I mean, there's simply no other way. I mean, you've got to stack recruiting classes, like you said, and you've got to start to build the depth where the players have to compete every day for their job on the field. And I think that's what you see. There's a lot of good teams in college football. There's a lot of teams that are really strong with their starting 11 on both sides of the ball. But until you really get that 1 through 22, where the guys on the first 11 are getting pushed every day in practice, you're going to go to a different level when you have that. So, again, on early returns, we're excited. Our first two recruiting classes as this staff, but we can't stop now because we know that the second you stop recruiting, your program dies on the vine. So, our guys are going right on to the 22s and 23s.
Manny, a theme that seems to have run through these first two classes is that they recruit each other. I mean, obviously the coaches have to follow up and the head coach is involved in the whole operation, but you get a half a dozen of the guys on there and they seem to jump in on the recruiting as well. To me, that's building a team before they even show up, and that's got to be priceless.
It is. We live in a connected society, digitally, if not always face to face. So the players are so easily accessible to each other. So they can have group chats and they can message each other or DM each other or call each other. So that happens all the time. So, and then we were also very blessed. I mean, we have a lot of guys in this class who have known each other since they were little kids, since playing youth league together or against each other. So having those type of relationships, I think, makes it even doubly special. The idea that they can all stick together.
When we come back, we will have the breakdown segment right here on the Manny Diaz Show.
It's now time for the breakdown segment with head coach Manny Diaz. And Coach, I hear you got something special for us today.
Yeah, we decided just to take a trip down memory lane and break down 5 of the more memorable plays of the year. It's been a long year. Some of these plays feel like it's hard to believe they were actually this season, but it'd be fun just to go back, pop on the Wayback Machine, and just look at some great plays. One of the great stories really early in the season was the improvement of our offensive line and Cam Harris's running. So here we are again in the spread offense. You got Mike Harley. He's going to motion behind, which makes the defensive back run over there with them, and your guys up front. Look at the blocking.
That's called finishing, right, Coach?
That's finishing. And then Cam Harris, as we mentioned, being able to extend the long runs, beat the defensive backs with speed, maintain the speed throughout the length of the run, a tribute to the work he did in the weight room all offseason. Here, but here's a good picture of that offensive line. You see on the right side there, Williams, Scaife, they try to make a little twist. Gaynor, everybody staying connected, staying together. Ja'Kai Clark doing a nice job right there. Just a bunch of guys just staying after it, and then all just an easy bounce out right there. Get the guy to turn his back, and off Cam goes. Fun game. You know what I mean? First college game day appearance, and a great way to set the tone. And we got a couple game winners. You remember this one here?
Oh yeah.
Tight one, right? Down by 4. under 3 minutes left to play, and we got a 3rd down and long. And this is to me the problem that Derek has presented all year. Do you rush? Do you cover? How do you handle his legs? And NC State, they decide that they want to bring everybody they got. So they bring a 7-man pressure, which leaves 1-on-1 here on the outside. And you talk about getting better. We talk about the development our receivers made. Everyone in America runs a slant route. It's not complicated. And in this coverage, the one thing the defensive back is told is don't get beat on the slant. But when you know how to do it, run a route, so he kind of sprays the guy a little bit, breaks inside, and then Derek just sticks it right on him. And then again, that strength to run out of the tackle, and then the speed, and then look at the strain is what you love. Teammates playing for each other. Watch Mark Pope. Watch Mark strain right there. Gets in front of the other defensive back so he can't get in on the play, and the celebration of the guys on the sideline, going crazy. That's what it's about, and that's again finding ways to win on the road in the conference against an NC State team that ended up being pretty good.
Manny, you look at your quarterback spot here. You got to have some courage now because he's hanging in there. You mentioned a 7-man pressure. He knows there's a chance that he's going to get hit as soon as he lets go of that football, but he holds on to it as long as he can.
He does, and he knows that that's the extra blitzer right there. That's the guy that we can't block. But he also trusts Mike Harley to be in that spot, and then look at that ball. The ball basically hits Mike right in stride, right on the 3. And then I love what Mike said. He said he heard David Feely's voice right now. Pick your knees up, pick your knees up. And he picks his knees up right there, stays on his feet. And it had been a great first down, but the fact that it was a touchdown was phenomenal. So, and here's another one, right? 6 minutes left in the game in Blacksburg,
Oh, yeah.
Always a tough place to play. And you're going to see a similar route. Mark Pope this time. So it's so cool. The guy who in the last game was celebrating for the accomplishment of one of his teammates, Harley. That's why it's so cool, because guess what? Next week it may be you in that same position. And lo and behold, here it is. So this is an RPO, and these 6 guys can only block 6. And these are the 6 that Virginia Tech has down that we can block. This guy right here, he belongs to Derek. He's the quarterback's read on the RPO. And the second that safety walks down like that, that's a guy we can't block in the box. Now they've got 7. They've got the unfair advantage in the run game. So you got to be able to keep them honest. And the way to do that is if the safety walks down, then there's obviously no one in that window right there. So again, good release. Watch Pope wins on the release up top. Boom. Gets by the defensive back. And again, what a big-time throw this is, Don.
Right there.
Bang, hits him in stride. And I think that's the underrated aspect of these 2 plays. They're not complicated routes. Everybody in America runs them. But when you hit that guy in stride, that's why you're able to run out of that tackle. If Mark's got to slow down on it, if the ball is slightly behind him, the defensive back's got, a chance to make the tackle, and then you got to come do it again. So, I think that's the whole key right there. It's what makes it fun and makes us a threat to score on any play.
Manny, when you talk about the Pope or any of the receivers, everybody talks about the top end speed, but so much of this success at that position starts at the line of scrimmage with the release.
No, that's what it's all about, yeah. And just using that, now your speed can be a factor, but that's learning the nuances of how to play wide receiver. And again, there it is right there. You do it. You create that separation right there, and that gives Derek, look at the ball is already gone. Look at where, Mark is barely out of his break. And watch where Derek is throwing the ball. You don't talk about anticipation. Look at the ACC logo right here. Look where Mark is, and look where Mark ends up catching the ball. That's remarkable, right? Catches the ball below the ACC logo, and when Derek rips it, look at that. That's just perfect anticipation, perfect timing. That's fun to watch, another game winner. And we got to have some for the defense too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Always a big one right here. You're playing your rivals. You know what I mean? Guys were really ready to play. A great night for the program. And, oh boy, well, this was a fun one, right?
I remember it.
Yep. Trick plays, we talk about it, effort. Guys doing a great job. They were going to run a trick. The secondary knows that something's up. You can see Bolden, Carter, jamming this guy here. Even Zach McLeod sniffs out why is the quarterback sort of sneaking out the back door right here like this. And then it just comes down to effort. Jade Silvera, played so hard for us this entire year. And gets after the guy. And then when people are under pressure, pressure bursts pipes. Makes a poor decision. Throws it. bang, Jalen's able to catch it. The only regret is that we just didn't get the touchdown. You know what I mean? That'd have been awesome. You know what I mean? If he kept his feet and could have scored, but we were going to score on offense quickly there afterwards. But again, just a phenomenal play. Everybody playing so well. Look at Gilbert Frierson sneak through the line of scrimmage, and just all those guys in the backfield just put the pressure on that play that they weren't expecting, and to be able to turn that into a turnover was, even with only the 13,000 or whatever it was in Hard Rock, it felt like a big time play at that moment.
Talk about the frenzy that put your defense in. Not only that play, but really for the rest of the football game.
They were. I mean, but it just shows you, if you already are playing hard. I mean, look again. I'm going to point out Silvera. If you just go hard and never stop, and that's why, and I'll use Frierson in the same boat. If you just go hard and never stop, good things tend to happen. But just by going hard, they end up back here in this position to make this play, and there you go. And now and there just comes the juggling catch, and who knows what happened if John Ford would have caught it. You know, maybe John would have scored.
That would have been nice. That
would have been super nice. And then from the same game, chance red zone defense to hold Florida State out, come on a quick pressure, and again, this just comes down to film study, review, formation. But again, you watch quarterback's intention. There's no drop on the play, so you know he's going to break, throw the ball hot. And look at this break by Bubba Bolden right here. Breaks right down the hill, is able to break right in front of that slant window, bats the ball up in the air, and then Al Blades, he's got such a great knack for making plays like this right there in the end zone to secure them, keep them out of the end zone. So just another phenomenal play of team defense. Guys going hard. Watch Roche on the rush. Smashes into the center, gets right back in the quarterback's face. So the quarterback's feeling it. He's feeling that, uncomfortable level, and then just guys playing hard, playing fast, ends up in a turnover. So 2 memorable nights from a great night anytime you beat your rival like Florida State.
Coach, you talk about the importance of film study and recognition. You see in these highlights tonight, especially defensively, that these guys put in the time to understand what the offense is going to do.
That's right. Well, anytime a running back free releases, okay, which means he's not blocking a blitzer, normally that means the ball is going to come out quick. So just a little tip like that, when you clue that in, then you see the quarterback's intentions. Normally if it's going to be a quick pass, he can't hold those off his eyes. He's got to look where he's going to throw because he's trying to get rid of the ball. He knows he does not have the protection. And so if you can do a great job on your eyes with a break, and then tips become picks, and that's exactly what happens right here.
All right, Coach, thank you for your time, and that does it for the Manny Diaz segment of The Breakdown.
For University of Miami head coach Manny Diaz and Don Bailey Jr., I'm Joe Zagacki. We'll see you next time on the Manny Diaz Show. So long, everyone.